Hey, we got food for you. You want to come into the van? Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, a podcast about games, anime, entertainment, life, and everything in between. I'm your host today, Joseph, and with me, the man who argued with all of the internet when he heard the Queen had died, stating that their music will live on forever. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
She's not dead. She's hiding in a bunker in New Mexico. She's going to be moving to Australia, which I don't know if you know this, but she's actually the Queen of Australia. It says so on the money. Follow the money. Their music will live on. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know what that really means, even though I said it. But yeah, I'm excited to be here, Joe. Having a good weekend so far. How are you?
Doing all right. I just assumed you really liked, fat bottom girls, eventually it'll click in your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Queen, the band. I think that they died a long time ago, though. so, uh, Freddie Mercury, rest his soul. He passed away quite a while ago. Um, anyway,
I once when that documentary came out, or that was a Bohemian Rhapsody, when that movie came out, I heard this other podcast talk about how their daughter had just gotten really into Queen, and the kid was like in an elementary school, and the dad just forgot to mention that, Freddie
everybody
Mercury's
knows
dead,
Freddie
because
Mercury's
it's
dead.
everyone's not it's common knowledge, and all of a sudden come towards the end of the movie, it's like on the car ride home, like, Dad, he's dead? Like, I had to explain that one. Like, oh dude, that was
Oh,
I I remember just being in tears listening to this dude talk about his story. Like, that is hilarious. Uh but yeah, I've been doing good, man. Yeah, same old for the most part. But how about you? You had some exciting things happen to you just recently.
yeah. So my dad went on a cruise to Alaska. Um, but they launched from Seattle, and so he was in Seattle a couple of days early, and he knows that I'm a freaking nerd. So he was walking around downtown Seattle. Uh, he already only sleeps like 5 hours a night. And then he was on Central Time on the West Coast. So he was up at like 4 in the morning walking around at their hotel, and he sees this sign for Emerald City Comic Con, and it was going on right then. So, long story short, he runs around. He does a whole bunch of stuff, and they say, "No, you got to go do this, and you got to go do that." But he tries to get in. He buys a ticket, and he runs all over the city, even though he's like trying to get into the dang comic convention. Finally, he gets in. He only gets like a couple hours in there, but while he's in there, he snags me some pretty cool swag. He got me this. Try to aim it onto the screen. This shirt for Emerald City Comic Con, which I found to be pretty cool, along with some other stuff. He got me a sweater, or it's not really a sweater, but it's
So for
a
anyone listening, why don't you explain it to them?
well, it's a so this shirt. I don't even know what the hell this is, um, but it's like it's a shirt for the comic convention. It's got a like a Yeti type cartoon drawing, and it says Emerald City Comic Con on it, and it's like in the
It's like that kids book, like the Wild Things. It's like something similar to the monsters of that.
it's sort of along that line, but it also is in the shape of a tarot card, which I mean that's what it looks like to me. Maybe it's not quite that, but it looks like that to me. Anyway, but he got me that. He got me a bunch of other small little things and a cool sweatshirt type thing. So yeah, he was like, "Here, you could talk about this on your podcast." And so I was like, "Okay, Dad." so
Mission accomplished.
so here I am talking about it on my podcast. But yeah, he ran around there and it's kind of funny, but because he doesn't really know anything about that stuff, but he likes to dive into shit that he doesn't know about. and he had his camera, and he said people were really happy. And I think the thing that tipped him off that there's something going on is he didn't put it in these words, but he saw cosplayers walking around downtown, and he was like, people are dressed up. What's going on? I think his spidey sense went off, and he knew some kind of crazy shit was going on. But anyway, I was like, well, that's really cool, Dad. So he's been to a comic convention, and I'm glad he got me a bunch of swag, and it was super cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Especially, it's fun to accidentally stumble across a convention when you didn't realize, and you're like, "Hey, I could actually partake in something like this." Because you don't have to build around it, and it's just spur of the moment. Here in the Chicago area, we got quite a few different small things, and so it's always nice to be able to do that. I remember even in Wisconsin, Madison had like this new one that came up, and I can't remember the name of it anymore because it was like I went to it like 15 years ago. But it's just like we just happened to be there and like, hey, there's this really small new convention that we're starting. It's like the second year we're doing it, and it was like on campus. You could tell they just rented out a couple rooms, and like it was like the one floor, and it was just like, hey, all right. Yeah, it was it feels like it has a lot more heart in a lot of ways because it's just a very much a passion project by a bunch of nerds, and
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, these people, they're my friends, you know.
Yeah.
So
These
yeah.
these are definitely people who care a lot about this. It's cool. It's cool to do little things like that. And like we had at my college town, we had a anime convention that I went to, I think when I was a freshman. And I think they had it every year, but I only went when I was a freshman. And it was pretty cool. I mean, we had had a tiny town. I mean, it's like, well, I guess the whole area is like 100,000 people. But they put on a show, and it was pretty cool.
Well, that's good to know, and also, it's good that you're not been murdered by the people of Marketplace. So you got yourself a new TV, didn't you?
Yeah,
Or a new
yeah.
old TV?
I got a new old TV. I actually wanted to tell you about this. I was thinking about telling you about it, I guess, more off the cast, but it's kind of relevant. So I got this Sanyo DS 024 something something serial number, and I started Googling it a little bit after I bought it because I was like, it's fine, but I actually had this issue with it, with trying to point a camera at it. And I started Googling it, and some of these people are trying to sell this same TV I've got for like $200, and I got it for 60 from a dude that had a bunch of them around here. But yeah. Um, oh yeah. So last time that we talked, or last time we were on the podcast, I hadn't actually bought it yet, right?
No, you were going to, and that's why if I was doing this one
Okay.
solo, we knew that someone had murdered you.
Yeah. So I went to go pick it up, and I did go to the east side of Austin, which, if you have ever been to Austin or know anything about Austin, you know that that is um, the rougher side of Austin. And it was broad daylight, and I just met this guy in this like favela type area. It wasn't that bad, but it was this. It was this really brightly colored apartment complex. Like all of the buildings were painted like purples and yellows and greens with all
Okay,
kinds of
I understand the
stuff.
favela reference now because I'm like, dude, just to say favelas, that's pretty bad, dude.
But it was broad daylight, and I was like, okay, all right, this is gonna be fine. And the dude comes out, he's got it, and it is a heavy TV, man. It's a 20-inch tube TV, and anyway, so people are selling these for they're trying to get money for these, and I was really impressed that I got it for the $60 that I did. But it's turned out to be pretty cool. The next part of the story is I ordered a PlayStation 2. You can actually get PS2s pretty cheaply online. There's a lot of them. You can get them for like, $30 or $40 if you're just getting the console with nothing else. but I actually wanted to get the console and get the original box that came with it. Uh, so I got that along. So I looked around on eBay for a while. I can't hear you.
All right.
There you go.
How about now?
There you go. Yeah, I
That's
can hear.
great because it's doing that thing again.
Damn.
All right. Yeah, I know, right? It's been such a long time, and so now my recording is off
Fucked.
sync. Awesome.
So, well,
And go. Okay. So, anyways, as far as the uh, what model PS2 did you get? The old fat one that you can stick in a hard drive? Did you get the slim color variant? What do
okay.
you got?
So I looked around eBay for a while. I knew I didn't want a slim, at least not at first. Though I think those might actually last longer. But so I got a fat one, a fat PS2, and when I was looking around, there's a lot of PlayStation 2s on there, and a lot of them have taken some kind of damage, or they're scuffed, or they're scrape on the front. I looked around for a while, and I found one that, and I mean, when I finally got it, I was really impressed because it is in damn near pristine condition. The front is totally great looking. It has like one like scratch on the back, and I was like, well, that's not that big of a deal. The box itself, I actually even looked at, and the back has like a sticker tear on it, but the front is in very good condition. And I had to pay about 130 for it after shipping and stuff. So I thought it was pretty good. The controller is good. It's definitely sat in the heat, I would say, because the rubber on the sticks is a little bit kind of worn out. But overall,
Those will
it's pretty good.
deteriorate over time as well. So just take them apart and we're getting you thumbsticks for them. I've had to do that with a couple controllers in the past for the PS2.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about maybe getting another one, like buying another controller. But it even came with a memory card with a old PS2 8 megabyte card. But I didn't know it was coming with that, so I went ahead and bought 128 megabytes. Um, and then it actually has a RFU adapter, so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I don't need it because I'm playing it on what is it, AVC. Um, so I got that hooked up, and I had just gone to the old game store. There's a place. There's a chain down here. They're in Houston and here in Dallas. I think it's called Game Over Video Games, and they sell used games and stuff like that, and some rare stuff too. I went in there a couple times, and the guy there is super nice, and he's like really knowledgeable about like all the different models that they made and the problems with them and stuff like that. But I ended up buying a couple different games. They had a Labor Day sale going on, so I bought Final Fantasy X-2, and I bought Metal Gear Solid 2, and I bought Shadow of the Colossus. Um, and so Metal Gear Solid 2 was like $12, and Final Fantasy X-2 was like $10, and Shadow of the Colossus was I think 25 or 30, somewhere around there. Um, but I plugged in Shadow of the Colossus and started playing it, and man, it hit me right in the feels. Hit me right in the nostalgia funny bone. It was wild watching that thing come up, and I was like, man, this looks like ass. This game looks so bad, and I remember it looking so good when I played it back in '06 or whatever. I think it came out in '05, and I probably didn't play it till '06. But
That game always looked bad. The what made it look good was just the scope, but if I remember correctly, uh, you kind of got away with it looking bad because the concept of it being like almost dreamlike,
yeah,
everything was kind of that ethereal feeling. So you're like, all right, you can give it a pass because it has that filter of like smudgy, like gray, like you're looking through a steamy window. But
yeah.
that's I'm like, of all the games to spend more money on, you spent more money on the one that got remade twice. So
Yeah, but I mean, like this. I mean, I had to like if it was. I wish that it was the original case, but then it would have probably been like $50. But this one was greatest hits version, and it was like they had two of them, and I was like, dang, I like the store, and I'm here right now, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get this. So I went ahead and got it, and playing it, it is the draw distance is pretty shit. But like there's so much to say. Man, games have come a long way in the past what is that, 16 years since '05. They have come a long way. I know that game was never considered to be very good controlling. And it had a lot of
no,
problems.
but it was neat as hell, dude. That game, so
Dude,
for what it's worth, I
it's
actually
so
really
good.
like that game a lot.
It's so
I never
good.
finished it first time around, though I did end up buying when they came out with the PS3, Ico and Shadow Colossus, set.
Yeah.
And then I know they brought out Shadow of the Colossus again, just by itself, remastering it. And I don't think I think if I own it, it's only because of like PlayStation giving it away for one of their monthly games back when they used to. So I'd have to actually double check to see if I actually own that. Uh, but I know I do own it. I own the original PS2 still, and I have that PS3 ICO bundle.
Man,
So
that's yeah, like playing this game. I never played Ico, so that's the other one I want to get. I want to buy Ico if I can find it for something reasonable. But playing this game again, gosh, dude, I remember people saying the controls were terrible, and they're bad. They are bad. There's aspects of them that are bad, at least out of the gate. And I was playing for about 15 minutes, and I was like, dang, this is so much worse than I remember it being. But after I got on the horse and got over to the first boss, and I took him down like really quick, and I was like, okay, this, it does take some getting used to, but it works. Like it works the way that you need it to work. It's like the horse and the camera. If you're not like I kept fussing with the camera and like trying to make it do what I wanted it to do, and I was like, you know what? Just quit messing with the camera. And I did. And I just started moving kind of blindly, and the camera would sweep around and follow me, and it wouldn't put me right in the center, and it wasn't perfect, but it would do well enough. And I was like, okay, I guess I just learned to just quit messing with the camera until I absolutely needed it to be where I needed it to be. But it's a trip going back to this game. It was pretty cool. So I beat the first boss, and I traveled around a little bit, and then I put it down. I decided to do something else. But it is definitely really cool, and I still have Drakengard coming in. It's shipped. I don't know when it's going to be here, but I'm going to start playing that and suffering through that whenever it comes in.
you're gonna cry when you get to the last boss. It's gonna be funny as hell. That's
Of
all I got to tell you. I don't know if you know how the game ends, how that last boss is, but I do, and that's gonna be funny.
of Drakengard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done plenty of research, and I know that it. I know that I think I know. I think it's either this one or the third one that it does something bonkers, off the wall. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to beat it, but we'll see. We'll see.
Uh, All right. Well, today we're recording a little bit later. Just some things have come up, so we're recording actually on Saturday, September 10th. Usually we like to have it posted by now, so unfortunately we'll end up having to post it a day late. And this is actually episode 26. So we've now officially made it a whole year.
Oh
This
my
is our last
gosh!
episode of the year. Yeah.
Wow. So wait. So when was our anniversary?
It'd be so there's 52 weeks in a year. So this is the last bit,
Well, yeah, but I'm just trying to think of the exact day that we started. It was like around today, a year ago.
yeah, so that's I mean, hey, surprisingly enough, we made it. None of us actually like
We're done.
gave up.
We're finished.
Like I had to record on a vacation once, in a
You
hotel
did.
room. Um, Funny enough, dodged some holidays and some other things. So yeah, we did pretty good overall. Not complaining. But
Sweet.
yes. All right. Now, I
Happy
guess the more
anniversary.
important, yeah, right. Happy anniversary. Now to some real news. Take it away, Nick.
All right. I feel like I've been talking a bunch, but I'll try to keep this to the point, and you can just ask questions. So today, I didn't even know this was going to happen. We were kind of gifted this being a little bit late, but Ubisoft Forward, which is Ubisoft's kind of event where they talk about all their stuff that they're going to be doing, that happened today. And they talked about a bunch of stuff. It was like there's like a 4 hour video on YouTube with like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour lead up for some reason before they actually get to the forward. So that was weird. But they did a bunch of stuff. They talked about Rabbids, and they talked about their dancing game, which I forget the name of right now.
Just Dance.
Just Dance. That's a good name for a dancing game. And they talked about a couple other things. They talked about because they also do Rainbow Six, so they talked about that a little bit, as well as The Division, which I skipped all that shit because I don't give a crap about any of that at all. And I don't even care about Assassin's Creed, but they did talk about Assassin's Creed, and people care about Assassin's Creed. So I thought, well, this is low hanging fruit. I guess I'll jump in on this. So, like I said, I don't care about Assassin's Creed. Joe, do you care about Assassin's Creed?
I have not since the second.
Good. Then let's talk about Assassin's Creed. So there's a couple different things here. They took us into a back room, a nice, well lit, warm room, and they tried to make some jokes, and they were bad. But they talked about what they've got going on. So basically, the first thing they talked about is the next mainline game coming up in 2023. Probably going to be the fall 2023, but it is going to be called Assassin's Creed Mirage, and it is set in Baghdad, and it is the original. It's going back to the very first game, that character, but I think it's a prequel because it is showing about how he became an assassin, which I played Assassin's Creed 1 back in the day. What was his name? Basim. I don't remember the rest of his name, but that guy's name is Basim, and I don't remember too much about that game, but I think you are already an assassin pretty well into your career whenever that game starts. So they're going back to that, and looks pretty good. Looks like an Assassin's Creed game. They've got stuff that they're going to be having you do. So yeah, they've got I can't remember her name, but they've got a kind of a bigger name actress coming in to play one of the side characters, which I have some opinions about. I think that I could probably spoil the story right now, but I'm not going to do that. Anyway, she came out and she had a video recording where she was very appreciative of getting to play the role, and so that's pretty cool. So kind of going on from that is they also are doing a mobile game called Assassin's Creed Jade. I think that's the code name. That may not actually be the true. No, I think that is the actual name.
Yep. Jade. Yeah. So That's the code name is Jade. And it's a open world mobile game apparently.
Yeah. So it's probably going to be along the lines of Diablo or whatever other kind of stuff. Maybe it is going to be more like over the shoulder camera type thing. I'm not quite sure, but they just do a teaser trailer. They just kind of show you the world a little bit, and that's it. And then after that, they kind of buried the lead here, but they had to get their next game out with Mirage. They are finally going to Japan. Assassin's Creed codename Red, and all they showed was a shinobi type guy on a rooftop looking cool. And that was pretty much it. And then they talked a bit about it a little bit. It is going to be done by Ubisoft Quebec, which is the one that did Odyssey, which people liked a lot. I guess people liked Valhalla the most so far, but when Odyssey came out, people did say that was a big step forward compared to Origin, the one in Egypt. People liked Odyssey a lot more than they liked Origin. But I heard Origin was good though.
I thought, see that I felt that it was flipped because I felt a lot of people got into Origin, and then when Odyssey came out, a lot of people burnt out because it's like they felt it was more of the same because they thought Odyssey was more of Origin, essentially just with Greek gods. Um, so that was the vibe I had always taken away from it. But either way, I heard that both Origin and Odyssey were solid in their own right, and yeah, as far as this new the codename Red for people have been saying Japan or Asia for the longest time. And then of course when you had uh Ghost of Tsushima come out, you're like, I don't really need it anymore. I'm good. I have my fill of a beautiful game where I can be as stealthy as I want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean, kind of just getting into the weeds on that a little bit. I've always, I've always heard that like you, but I've also always understood like you too, probably that like they just had to save that Japan, they just had to save Japan for whenever they were getting ready to maybe end the series or make a change to the series. Because like Japan is like the ultimate, ninjas and assassins. So I kind of wonder how much they're going to do. To me, they really ought to throw the kitchen sink at whatever this Red ends up being, like whatever the actual name ends up being, because it is going to be the penultimate, Assassin's Creed game. They really need to make this game come out and be like, this is everything we wanted Assassin's Creed to be in at least in this decade, and here it is. But it kind of it's kind of like a little bit more news. They did release another teaser for Assassin's Creed codename Hex, or Hexe, as one of the British ladies pronounced it. It's spelled Hexe. And they just do a really quick type of trailer where it's a pan down on this string hanging from a limb in the dark, and then you see these kind of dead trees, and it comes down to the Assassin's Creed A symbol, but it's made out of these little tiny sticks, and there's like fires. There's like a fire down below, and there's like dogs barking or something like that in the background. And people are saying, and it looked to me like witches to me, but also people, I think I saw some news article that was saying that it has Blair Witch vibes. So it's something.
Early New England.
Yeah, that would be the thing. Would be you're right. Yeah, that's probably the best. That's a really good guess. Probably some kind of Crucible type Blair Witch project thing going on. What is the name of that place? It starts with an S.
You're talking about Salem?
Salem. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So probably going to be some kind of Salem witch trials type thing going on, which maybe that'll be cool. Who knows? And the final thing before we kind of go back and maybe talk about some of this stuff is Assassin's Creed Infinity. This is going to be some kind of Assassin's Creed hub for the games where I guess you can go back and play them. It's going to have multiplayer. And also, they didn't really say too much about this in the actual video, but I read from a news article that this is where the modern day part of the story is going to be told, is in Assassin's Creed Infinity. People have been complaining about that, animus type stuff for a decade and how they hate it, and they're finally gonna put it here, it seems like. So so that's pretty much the long and short of what they announced. Some of it's pretty interesting, but Yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed it. They also are tying up. They're doing the last chapter for Valhalla as well.
Yeah, I forgot to
Um,
mention that. So they are going to put that out, and I think part of it's going to be free or something like that. So they are following up with the end of Valhalla. And I mean, it's been like 2 years since any Assassin's Creed came out. So much welcomed rest for me hearing about the series. I don't know about you guys, but I was sick of hearing about that every year. People I listen to having to talk about it. But yeah, so
I'm surprised you're not more excited about the news for the Rabbids though, because
I skimmed over
you're
it.
all about the Switch, and I actually really liked Mario and Rabbids, the first game, and so they talked more about the second coming out, and I I personally thought the first game was a solid XCOM like. I mean, I have more success with that than I did with XCOM, that's for sure. It was less less brutal and
Everybody
less
just
teeth
die.
kicking.
Yeah.
You have a 75% chance, and which means you have a 100% chance to miss. It's like a 90% chance, still like I don't know, 70% chance to miss. Those numbers didn't mean squat.
Yeah.
They really didn't. So
Uh,
no, but and also just getting to see
well,
Mario with the gun. So
yeah, that's what I want. Mario with a gun. Man, that just reminds me of that meme of.
next up on Fortnite, man. That's all there is to it.
It just reminds me of that meme of Kingdom Hearts 3, and it's got the characters, and it's got Daffy, and he's holding, or not Daffy, but Donald, and he's holding the gun. That is just the best. It's fake, but it's so funny. Yeah, so I just kind of skimmed over that part. I was like, rabbits, like whatever. But like you said, I'm Mr. Switch over here. And the reason I'm not really too excited about games like that anymore is because there's a lot of stuff that is coming out for the Switch right now. There's really more stuff than I have time to play that I would really like to play. Still trying to work on Xenoblade Chronicles, though I put it down in favor of some other games that we're going to be talking about. But Bayonetta 3 is going to come out at the end of October. And then also Splatoon 3 just came out, which I don't have time nor money to touch. So there's plenty of stuff to play on the Switch, and then also the PS5 is eating up some time. So anything that's not like, hey, this is going to be a badass game for Switch or really for anything is going by the wayside these days.
all right. Yeah, fair enough. I just figured you gave up on the Switch now that you got your PlayStation 5. So that's the real thing here.
I
You
haven't
just don't
given
want to
up on
admit
it.
that.
I haven't given up on it, but it is really hard to go back and play even like a good game like Xenoblade Chronicles after playing like Horizon and stuff because it's like, man, that is like last gen stuff, and it just doesn't do it for me anymore. I'm anyway, so yeah, so that's pretty much it for the Ubisoft Forward. Yeah, do you want to talk about the next thing?
All right, sure thing. Yeah. All right. Well, you talking about the awesome games done quick?
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna step into the weeds here a little bit. So just this past week, Awesome Games Done Quick announced that they are going to be going to a digital only event for their next event in January 2023. And they went ahead and stated that it's that the reason for it um, is due to Florida's policies on or their new legislation on trans people and trans surgeries. The article I read, I think their actual quote said that Florida's anti-trans legislation, along with their COVID policies, being something that the people that run AGDQ that they don't agree with. And I didn't know this, but I guess Games Done Quick is in Florida. I guess I never knew where they were headquartered, but that seems to be where they are.
Um, I know the summer event has taken place before in Minnesota.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% sure on where the locations. I just always end up just catching the streams. And I know the last event that was in person. If so that they actually got to meet up for that one, if I remember correctly.
So
But it's always a blast to watch. Yeah.
yeah, it's super cool to watch. I actually don't get into it that much, but I know we were talking about Shadow of the Colossus earlier, and one of the few that I have watched because it was relatively short was the Shadow of the Colossus one. Watching somebody just rip through that game was pretty baffling. It always is, but that one I was like, man, that's wild. But yeah, it makes sense for them to be in. Did you say in Minnesota in the summertime?
Well, yeah. So
You
they
think?
want to stay. They don't want they want to stay the best temperatures in either location, right?
Yeah, so
Uh,
wintertime, January in Florida is probably, beautiful. So it makes sense.
yeah. So I mean, they'll probably end up going anywhere, uh, warm climate, preferably, I suppose.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's just kind of weird. It
But
seems
you gotta make it easier for the if, if your people are attending in person, you want them to go ahead and have a good time when they're not at the event, as well. Because participants are gonna have to enjoy their time out in the city, like, unless if they're just going in for the one thing and leaving, which would be kind of a waste of trip, right?
yeah, that's true.
So,
That's true.
but
I just
then if you did Hawaii, it'd just be too darn expensive,
yeah, no, I mean no
and
one's going out
it
there. I mean they like they didn't even yeah, that's just a wild thing to ask gamers to go to when they don't even want to be outside in the first place. Um, but like it's kind of weird to me. I guess they probably have had to go digital um, because they can't find a suitable location to switch to on short notice. I know this kind of stuff takes a while to get all the licenses and stuff, but it just makes sense that they would go. I mean, it makes more sense to me they would go to someplace like California, where it's like, well, it's warm in the wintertime. It's kind, and then it also agrees with California tends to agree with their apparent preferences on these type of issues. So I kind of imagine that they might end up going someplace like that in the future, but I guess only time will tell.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but luckily, this last summer event was their first return back to in person since COVID happened.
Yeah,
So at least they had the structure, or for to do digital because they were doing that the last handful of times. So it really wouldn't be that difficult for them to fall back in, opposed to like when they first started doing it. And yeah, it's they'll make do. They'll find a different location, and it's a matter of I bet there's a lot of other logistics that go involved with taxes and having to pay, because it's nonprofit, but at the same time they're still gonna have to rent a venue and this, that, the other thing. So I don't know. Good luck to them. Just when the time comes, everyone should just give them a watch, and yeah, most definitely if you can donate because it's really cool to watch these things, and it's all for a good cause. So
yeah, it's
for
always
sure.
for cancer research and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much it for that one. And then just kind of going on here, there's Sony. So Sony's lawsuit claimant did a AMA on Reddit. Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and this is from I was pulling this from a Eurogamer article. They were saying that it did not go well, so I decided to go to the actual source of the AMA, and I can confirm it did not go well for this lawsuit claimant. Somebody popped up and said, um, "Gosh," basically they said that they did a little research and that this lawsuit claimant is just a money grab. Which when they said that, I was like, okay, that makes sense. So it's just some kind of money grab where they're just trying to get people into the suit, and it's reeked of nonsense to me from the beginning. Not that I'm really one to want to stick up for the big guys for big video games, as it were. But yeah, so it spiraled out of control pretty quickly, and I did see a whole lot of responses to people's questions, which were pointed. And anyway, so that just was kind of funny, kind of a funny little news piece to me. Uh, and yeah, so I don't know how much longer that claim is going to last before it get thrown out of court, but we'll see.
All right. Well, waste of time then. Thanks.
That you're welcome. Yeah, I wasted my time, so you don't have to.
Took a bullet for the team. Good job.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got?
So lastly, and but not leastly, I think the Sony lawsuit thing is probably the least. So lastly is in the game MultiVersus, the character Velma from Scooby Doo will no longer call the cops on her opponent as a particular move. The people that play MultiVersus did not care for her calling the cops on some of the other characters in that game, considering the political climate that we're in nowadays. And so they did a little petition, but they didn't have to go very far because the developers themselves took a look at it and they were like, yeah, you're right. We don't like it either. And so they decided to take it out. So now the cops will not be called. And instead, the Scooby Doo mystery van, I forget the actual name of it. Is that what it's called?
Mystery Machine.
Mystery Machine. Thank you, Joe.
It's on the side of the van.
I don't know how to read. The Mystery Machine will come and take the said culprit, enemy, whatever, away. And so that's just a little thing that they decided to do there. Yeah. So Joe, what do you think about it? Do you think that makes sense, or do you think something else?
I actually think having the Mystery Machine show up would make more sense from the beginning. But then also it's also equally creepy if they're just going to throw someone in a van and then take off on multiple levels.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's just like if it was an unmarked van, you'd be like, okay. It's like if it was the UK, it would also be the cops, right? And so luckily it says Mystery Machine on it, and then luckily they're also being like, hey, we got food for you. You want to come into the van? No, it's they could go so wrong with a lot of ways. But honestly, when I think Scooby Doo, I don't think the cops. So I don't know. Having that in there originally wasn't really a thing.
Well, I mean, like, doesn't the cops always show up at the end? Isn't that like, wasn't that like how
they arrest the guy, and it happens to be the first or second person you see when it's a procedural.
It's procedural. They got 15 minutes to get this done, man. Like don't have a whole lot of time for red herrings. But yeah, I mean, like, I never had a problem with the cops showing up and taking somebody away. But like, it also kind of doesn't really, I don't know. It, as far as the show goes, I remember that's like how the kids avoid getting killed is they would corner the bad guy and they would have a gun or something, and then the cops would show up and prevent the actual kids from being murdered by the murderer. But maybe I'm remembering things wrong. So I don't have a problem.
There was never a murderer. There was. It's always someone trying to scare someone away so they can get the land to themselves or find the hidden gold or jewels or some crap. But it's always a scare tactic. It was never
actual murder.
The kids caused more violence than anything by setting up booby traps galore. That's what they were. In fact, they are the menace.
Yeah, they are definitely the menace. I'm just like, why do we have to worry about every single little thing? I mean, the cops are not the bad guys, but whatever. I guess it does. I will say that it makes a little bit more sense that Velma would be able to call the van and have the van come and take them away. Because it's not like the people that Velma is fighting are actual criminals. So it doesn't really make sense for the cops to actually come, because it's like, it's Daffy Duck. Like, who cares, Velma? Shut up. We're the cops. We're not coming to arrest Daffy Duck, or whoever else. It's like just who her enemy is. So I guess, in a roundabout way, it makes more sense for the Mystery Machine to come than the cops, because the cops would just be like, fuck this shit.
Yeah, and and on the bright side, at least it was never like the cops coming out and beating on anyone. So there you
Oh
go.
gosh.
You should have been happy because you could have seen that being in the rough draft originally. Someone probably went, hold, pump the brakes, man. Wait a minute. Uh,
That's where focus groups would really pay off.
yeah.
That is
So
wild.
no, it's
Watching like Bugs Bunny crawling on the ground as like cops beat him. Oh my gosh. That would
no.
be
Instead, you'll get to see him thrown in a van and then never to be heard from again. Um, Actually, I don't. I barely I barely looked into this game. Period. Like I remember when it was first announced, and then when it first started getting like there was some early like beta testing, and I heard semi-positive things. But this also came out just after Nickelodeon did theirs, and that was not really well received. Or at least I didn't think it was at the time. Maybe it was. The thing
well,
is, I don't play the platformer, fighter games, so it's like I didn't even play the PlayStation All Stars,
oh
so
yeah.
and then I had that one for free thanks to Sony, and I never touched it.
So what I heard, just real quick, what I heard about the Nickelodeon one is that it it was really sound fighter, but it didn't have any like it didn't have like the music and it didn't have like it didn't have the voices for a lot of the characters, and so it was just it just needed more money and time to be put into it to fill it out. But people said that the fighting, and they kind of lamented, they're like, the fighting in this game and this game, the bones of this game are really good. It's just not fully really finished. Um, so that's kind of
Okay,
the long and short of that.
so then, this is probably Warner Brothers then,
Yeah.
who's backing, the multiverse?
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, so, I mean, they most definitely have more money to pitch around probably, than a half-baked, like, Nickelodeon thing,
Yeah.
but alright, that makes sense. Any other Scooby Doo crew in there, or is it just Velma?
I don't know.
Oh, it's
I
probably
just
Shaggy because Shaggy has to be in there, right? Because of all the
surely.
memes?
Surely he
Yeah.
has to be in there. I don't know. I just read the news, man. I don't I don't play that. I mean, it seems like it might be a pretty cool game. Is it free to play? It seems like it would be. I don't know, but I will say that MultiVersus is a good name for a game. Like for what they're going for, I'm really surprised it's not taken. So bravo to them on getting that name because that's a pretty good get. But yeah, so that's it. That's all I had for the news. And yeah, that's it.
Alright. Well, that's thanks for that. So do you wanna take a break, or are you good to go?
I'm good to go, dude.
Alright. So let's get into some of the things what we've been playing. So you mentioned earlier about, Bayonetta 3 coming out, just around the corner, and, luckily, thanks to you, you ended up getting, Bayonetta 1 and 2 on the Switch. Uh, and like a cheap person that I am, I went ahead and you let me go ahead and register my Switch as yours, and then I'm a sub account on there, so I'm able to play. No, I'm letting everyone know it's okay. Um,
Nintendo's gonna come and get us, dude. They're gonna break your legs.
so I went ahead and downloaded Bayonetta 1, and I was giving it some, 'cause I hadn't actually ever played the Bayonetta at all. I
Oh
played a
wow.
bit of
Okay.
yeah, Devil May Cry 1 and 2. I've played. I gave up on 3, and then when Bayonetta came out, I was like, "Nah, dude, it's just the same thing." But now you're going with trying to go with sex appeal. And I've learned at that point where like I'm not particularly fond of the Devil May Cry series. I mean, it was over the top, story was phenomenal, but as far as the actual mechanics go, I was never able to dive deep into the nuance that some people just really love. I, on the other hand, just button mash my way through, do a couple combos, and then just I brute forced my way through to the end. It actually felt more like the original God of War games to me than it did, um, like the combo and really techniques driven game that most people play it as. So I was never able to like Devil May Cry get those style points, the combos up really, as I probably should have. So given how much it being such a long time since I played any of those games, uh, yeah, not really surprising. I'm still not very good at this game. I mean, I feel like I'm more like button mashing my way through. I'm like, this is it's entertaining just from a perspective of like I can't believe they let this on Nintendo platform. I mean, Bayonetta 2 was exclusively the Wii U, was it? I believe. So yeah, I think that's the case. And but yeah, the fact that that Nintendo's owning a franchise like this, so but as a whole, I'm not very good at it, and it's not my cup of tea. So I kind of burnt myself out. I played a handful, and I'm like, yeah, I got my fill. I'm not. I now no, I'm not going to waste my time on Bayonetta 3. I'm going to let you regale me of your tales, but outside of that, that's it.
Good, because I ordered the special edition $90 with the book and all that crap. That came back up, and so I ordered that. So that's going to be a physical release. So unfortunately, you weren't going to be able to play it anyway, at least not from me, because I was like, I'm getting one of these limited editions. I don't care. I have been waiting to get one of these damn limited editions since I should have tried to get Metroid, because that probably would have been the last one I would have been able to get. But anyway, yeah, I played Bayonetta back on the back last year on the PC. And I really should. I mean, I think I bought it for $5, but I mainly got this double pack in order to get Bayonetta 2, because it's stuck on Switch. Even though it's a years old game, it's still pretty expensive. But I haven't started playing it yet. Bayonetta 1, I actually made a good way through. Gosh, I think I played that on normal, and I was just, I was playing along, and I just hit a wall, and I was getting my ass kicked. I was like, this game is so freaking hard. And then I looked around, and I had totally missed out, forgotten on the black guy that helps you, his like restaurant or whatever, his bar. You're supposed to go in there and get upgrades. Hadn't been getting any upgrades, and it was like so freaking hard, and I was just getting stuck, and I was like, what in the world's going on? Finally, I found that place, and I got the upgrades, and then it was easy. And I was like, okay, cool. So I don't know if you've tried that, but yeah, I mean, I really like Bayonetta. It's a pretty amazing game for the time it came out. Short and sweet, but really really cool. Shooting around and stuff like that. So I'm actually been playing some other stuff, but I'm gonna be getting into Bayonetta 2 this week to really try to get that for the next time we talk on the podcast. But yeah, I'm glad you're playing that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm glad I touched back with it. It was, like I said, it was a fun concept, but it's just like I, I just for some reason my brain doesn't click as well as other games when it comes to that, the actual mechanics of, I end up, like I said, I just go back to button mashing. It's kind
Yeah,
of
I don't think that it's really that nuanced. I mean, maybe somebody could prove me wrong, but like once I started getting upgrades, playing on hard was not all that hard. You kind of just use the things that they give you, and in any order that you really want, and I was able to get through most stuff without too much trouble.
Yeah, it reminds me of like how I feel like I'm playing when I play any of those Muso games, especially the ones that the most recent ones that came out for the Switch, Fire Emblem Warriors and or Heroes, no Warriors, yep. And then there was the first Legend of Zelda one that they came out with,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's fun to look at, but playing it uh, is just mind-numbing for me. Like, it is a great thing to have, like, in the background maybe, like, you're half your attention's focused on a TV show or a podcast or something, but I just I want more, I guess, engagement, I want from a game like this. I guess I wanna be actually more focused on it, and I feel like uh, it was just not enough for me. And that's it. This game wasn't really for me the first time around, and I was hoping that maybe some time had changed and I can come back to it. And no, it's the same as it was before.
Yeah, I think there's definitely games that probably do what this game is trying to do, but better. Uh, uh, like Devil May Cry 5. I played a little bit of that, and that is like a fighting game. That is very nuanced and is doing a lot of kind of crazy stuff. But yeah, there's probably other stuff that you could spend your time on that's a little bit more enjoyable probably for you.
Yeah, I also think that, but they do some of the cutscenes and stuff are fun and flashy, and that's what I loved about Devil May Cry, the first couple games, because it was just so over the top, action and cheesy, very much like the kind of reminds me of Metal Gear Revengeance or whatever that
Oh
was.
yeah,
Uh,
Revengeance. Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's
that is also a
platinum.
platinum game. Yeah.
Yep, yep, for sure. Platinum being platinum, or at least the A tier platinum. So
Yeah.
that's they're great when they're great when they're great. And but for me, it ends up being it's a fun YouTube watch, I guess. In the end, uh just for me personally. But like I said, I know a lot of people who are really into it and who could do really good stuff. But yeah, outside of that, I've been uh, touched a board game. It's first time in a while. So I
Show me
bought
on the board
uh,
game where the Joe touched you.
yeah, right. It touched me in the feels. It was a really good game. So I played this game called Spirit Island. Uh, Ended up buying it for my significant other a while ago, and I also bought the expansion right away because I'm an idiot. But I was like, it was a good deal, and I was like, I'm gonna buy it, even though we're not gonna touch the expansion for who knows how long, and we've barely gotten the chance to play this board game. But the few times we have, it's kind of kicked our teeth in. To explain what this game is it's a cooperative game where you and I believe up to four people total can go ahead and uh, try to work together to defend your island. And how this game is, you get to select you're one of a certain god, like a type of elemental god of some sort, and you have these character cards you get to pick from. They have certain difficulty rankings on them, and well, essentially, depending on how many people you play as, you have little board pieces that are four different elemental tile sets. So if you've ever played anything like Catan, you can kind of see like the hexagonal pattern, and essentially what you do is depending on the layout of your island, your job as a god is to defend them from invaders. They kind of look like Spaniards, I guess. But it's that concept of these people. You have a soldier or like explorer come in, and then eventually over the next turn they'll build a settlement, which will be like a little town, and then and then eventually they have the threat of building a city, and you have your native people on the island who worship these different gods who you're playing as. Yeah, it's each god plays very different, and it's kind of the fun part is you have so many different ways you can play. It has a lot of replayability, and uh it's kinda difficult, but also, just like any board game, the first handful of times we've been playing it wrong. Well, there's always a key thing that we're like, "Oh, wait, I've been misreading this icon. This icon is means, like, to cause fear and not it looks like a shield with 2 spears going through it. It's more of
Uh,
a angry, screaming skull face, with, 2 spears behind it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I really thought it was a shield." So I've been giving myself plus defense instead of fear. Like, I don't know, it's just weird mechanics. Every board game kind of does this, unless if you have someone who's already familiar with it, who can really lay out the rules. And so, a buddy of mine came over. We ended up spending 4 hours, 3 hours maybe, kind of slowly playing this game, and we won. But it also probably took us a little extra longer because by the time we were done, it was like 2:30 in the morning. We started really late, and we're like, "We win, yeah, we won. Okay, cool. I think we played the game wrong, but we're all pretty confident we played it right, so we're going to count this as a legitimate win." The first time we've had actually a successful time,
if
you know.
we just agree that we have won, then we have won, and no one can say otherwise.
Yeah, so this is the first time I've actually played a character. I played the same character as I did last time, and that week, so I'm like, I'm familiar with you. It's too late in the evening. I'm not going to try to learn a new character. I am sticking with you. And then the same thing with my other buddy. Like, ended up picking the exact same character they played before. Like, cool. We're already familiar with this, and yeah, it's a good time. It's a deck builder kind. Essentially is
Okay.
you start out each god starts out with their own hand, and then as the invasion progresses, essentially, it's kind of random where what tiles the invaders will go on and where they'll start to grow and ravage. And you slowly gain more cards, unlock more abilities for each character. But I don't want to go too crazy in depth because listening to the rules of a board game is boring as hell. So on that note,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to move to you.
well, I'll just say that before I go on to the other games I've been playing, um, yeah, like playing a board game the first time is always it's always a slog, even if it's similar to what other things you play. I mean, that does help, but it's always a slog to get the rules into your brain and to kind of navigate your way around. It's always the second and third and fourth time, and then when you get really good at board games, that's when they're like super fun and they actually are worth the money that you paid for them. But that sounds like a pretty cool game. It does sort of sound like Northgard, which I think I talked about a a few months ago on this podcast. But yeah, it seems
Within the
pretty.
last year.
Yeah, it's definitely been within the last year. I think it was like maybe in June or something like that. But anyway, so that does sound pretty cool. I'll have to check it out. But for me, I have finally decided to finish up with God of War 2018. So I started this whenever it came out back in January for the PC, and I got about 10 hours in. Something else came out, and I had to jump onto that. It's probably Elden Ring. It might have been around that time, but anyway, something else came out, and I decided to jump onto that. So I finally got back to it, and I ended up spending. I was thinking I was about halfway through whenever I put it down, and I was pretty spot on. I ended up spending just a little bit over 20 hours on it. I did some of the side quests, like the really low hanging fruit, like, hey, go in this room and do this puzzle, but you don't actually have to, but it's here. So I did a couple of those things, but for the most part, I just kind of rammed my way through that game and tried to just get the storyline because I mean, I wanted to play it, but like mostly I want to just get the storyline so that I'm ready for God of War 2 whenever it comes out this November, I think. So yeah, I finally finished that. I really liked the story. Look, the gameplay, the whole game was really great, but the story was really great. I think that they kind of there was some things where they were like they kind of made certain characters act a certain way so they could get the ending to line up the way that they wanted it to be. But otherwise, it was very well told and very well acted. I think the actress that played Freya, I think she won some award or something for playing that, or she was up for the Game Awards or something like that. But she did a really good job. Kratos, the guy that played him, awesome. Even the kid was pretty good. But and the head, I forget his name, starts with an M, but he was great. He was I got him like soon after I picked the game back up again. So you don't get him till like halfway through the game, which I was kind of surprised by. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, and now I'm ready to play God of War 2. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's Mimir is the head.
Mimir, that's right.
But yeah, he was some of the funniest bits. And that game is solid from front to back. I completely did everything you could on the PlayStation 4 with that. I the all of it was manageable. The only part that actually gave me um anything tedious was finding all the portals and ripping those open. I think there was the last Valkyrie was a nightmare. Um, so some of the Valkyries are tough, but they're all relatively manageable. That last Valkyrie though, because once you do them all, you then unlock the final one because towards there's you'll see like a kind of round table set up where and you unlock that one, and I I beat my head against that one so hard. I actually had to respec a couple times to try to do some things differently. I was just like, there has to be a better way, and I barely squeaked out. I don't know. It's just a matter of luck. I felt like half the time. Had not had a boss battle that made me so like controller throwing angry.
Uh,
Um, I don't throw my controllers, but man, if I did, that controller would have gone. Uh,
yeah, I don't throw
it felt
controllers
almost
either.
yeah.
People who do, I'm just like, man, what are you doing with your life? But I do understand sometimes the visceral anger that comes. But people who do throw controllers, I think everyone that I've known who throws controllers is a better gamer than me. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's one of those. If it reminds me of an old SNK final boss where like everything's manageable, and then you get to the last boss and they just do nothing but like cheat moves, and it's like you're like you are meant to steal all my quarters. That's what you're designed for, and that's how I felt the last Valkyrie was. Uh, and but yeah, it was very satisfying beating it. Uh, just because I got the platinum there. I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm happy with that. No, the story was excellent. They did one of the best things I always like in games where when you're in the middle of talking, usually it's when you're rowing the boat and then you hit shore, they'll stop, and then the next time you get back in the boat, they'll pick up where they left off. Like where was I, or like back to this, and I'm like I like the fact that because uh, it does help with the pacing as well. Because other games, I'll have to, especially like a Grand Theft Auto or something like that, where they're talking along the way to your objective. Now I've already made it to my objective, but I want to hear you continue talking. So I have to actually stop before I hit that marker, and then just so I can idly listen. And then when they're finally done talking, then I can go forward. Because if I don't, I'll forever not hear what they say.
Right.
So they did a really good job with that, and that's one of my favorite things for a game developer to do is let you fucking hear the rest of what they're talking about.
Yeah, that they do a good job with that, and they do the stories for the in between, travel time and stuff like that, where you're running around or in the boat. The stories are good. They're interesting. They often have to do with what you just learned about in the game, some little extra stories here and there, and it's. I would much rather that be the case than going around and picking up audio logs or something like that. If you can build it into something that I already have to do, then I don't feel so bad about like sitting there walking around and listening to an audio log. It's that just it if it's baked in better like that, it's a better situation, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you finally got around to finishing it though. So that's good to hear. It is a seriously solid piece of work. And granted, everyone makes fun of games for doing it, but they do a good job of hiding the load times.
Yeah,
Despite
I
like
was gonna say that.
but
Yeah.
there's quite a few when backtracking, like I have to go through that tight space again, and they're like, I'm gonna squeeze through to hide your load time. I'm like, but at the same time, it's it's more visually interesting than watching that load screen.
Yeah,
So
it's at least you're pushing forward. You're doing something with the controller, and it does take a while for you to kind of get to where you're like, this is just another load screen. It does at least in the first 5 to 10 hours. You're like, oh, okay, I'm just doing this thing, but at least it sets back that annoyance meter that builds up. That what do you call it? Um, I would say it's like a resentment. There's like a resentment meter that builds up on games, where it's just like this fucking game, and that it makes so that doesn't build up quite so fast. But yeah, they do a lot of good work. hiding that stuff. Some of the climbing is that way too, where you're climbing around. I'm like, why the fuck am I climbing around? Why is it taking so long to climb? Oh, because there's a loading screen that's hiding here. But it's still enjoyable. And I did figure out some of the surprises that they were going to throw at me right before they threw them at me. So they did a pretty good job of hiding those, but I still was like, I bet this is, and then bow, there it is. Okay. And then they did a good job ending the game. I thought this was going to be a total like cliffhanger or something, and it's not. It definitely, the game wraps up with what they're trying to do. So I guess they weren't sure if they were going to make another one or what, but I definitely appreciated that because I don't know. I if its story's really good, I am like, yeah, give me another game, and I don't care if it's a cliffhanger. But sometimes I just want it to be done if I want it to be done.
They ended up hinting at though through the game, because they've already said like different different eras gods all exist like simultaneously, and
Oh,
then they show because obviously he's from the Greek god faction, and so he's visiting the North gods, and then they make reference to Egypt and to Japan, in some of the treasure rooms or some of the artifacts or something like that.
I did notice some
So
Egypt stuff, yeah. But and then I did see like the yin yang war type. It wasn't a yin yang, but it was their similar symbol, but for war. I did see that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
yeah, so theoretically, you have future places you can romp through, if they wanted to expand the story in those directions.
That'd be really great for like DLC. I know that I was listening to some podcast last year, and they were talking about God of War 2 and how that was going to. I mean, last I heard, God of War 2 is going to wrap it up for as many as they want to make right now. And they were talking about the like the director of the last one is going to be the director for this one, and how when you make three games, you're talking about like somewhere between 9 and 12 years of your career on one game series. That's a lot to ask, of somebody. And they're well paid, and it works out. But it does when they put it in that kind of context, I was like, yeah, I think if I was a director or whoever was doing this stuff, I'd be like, yeah, let me do two games, 6 years, 8 years, somewhere in there, and then I want to move on with my career and do something different. So I
Yeah,
don't know if
for
they're gonna.
sure. But I mean, at the same time, you got your team that knows how to do the stuff, and franchises, no franchise will ever be buried forever.
Yeah,
So what but now they have a kid, so you know, just total spitball in here. Um, I figure they'll kill off Kratos. I'll say it now.
you're probably
And
right.
then the kid
Oh
will take up the
man,
God of War mantle, like father, like son, and therefore they can spin off his young adventures into goddom or whatever,
in
into
Egypt or something.
murder. Yeah, exactly. You got anywhere else you can go, and yeah, I mean, it's learn new techniques, growing pains, all that stuff. I bet will probably happen.
I guess the last thing I'll say about this is that right regarding the story. I won't get too spoilery, but gird your loins. Um, the way that they take kind of the absurdity of the first games, just kind of the raw bloodshed and kind of ridiculousness of the violence of those first games, and weave it into a pretty touching and interesting story about trauma and carrying those old demons with you, and like the kind of the cycle of violence into this game. I thought that was really probably the best part about the game, at least the story of the game, because it made something that was ridiculous in the past have a lot of meaning now in a more advanced way here in the future. So anyway, that was pretty cool. But that's all I got to say about that.
All right. Anything else you've been playing?
Yeah, I have been playing another game, and the question is, have you been playing this other game? Joe.
Not with you. Uh,
But have you played it at all?
I have. I've played it a little bit. Just unfortunately, I've only gotten a few hours in. That's it.
Well, the game that we are talking about is Saints Row. And so you last time you'd played a little bit of the not the game, but have you actually gotten into the story at all of Saints Row?
Yeah. I just gotten past like a little bit, past the main uh intro. Essentially, is the way I'll put it. And then I've gotten to just mess around with the world and kind of have some fun. Unfortunately, I got a couple groups of people that all want to play the game with me, and yeah, I know, right? I
Yeah.
got to pick and choose.
I
Too
mean,
bad. I just assumed you're just gonna be blowing me off for your Switch. Is generally how I always felt. Uh, whatever it is, I'll just spin the game on you. I'll spin the different system on you, and then when you're playing something on the Switch, you're like, where were you on the Switch? I'm like, you were too busy playing the PS5. Uh,
just fucking gaslighting me over here. I mean, we can like you're playing it on PS4, right?
yeah.
Okay, so we
It
can
it
cross
plays
play.
it plays just fine, and we can totally play this game together. It's honestly, like I said, I've only gotten to even touch it just for a handful of hours, so
Well,
it's nowhere near as much as I want to. So
well, I will totally multiplayer it with you whenever you have time. I had played up to about 10 hours last weekend, and I don't think I'm quite 20 hours in, but I know I'm somewhere between 10 and 20, probably about 15 or 18, somewhere in there. Um,
nice.
and I did get a good ways in the story, not a ton, but I did get a good little ways in the story, and I have been screwing around in the world a lot. This game when it came out, it was getting, sixes and sevens, um, with a kind of an emphasis on the sixes that it was getting. I think that is kind of unfair. I think that six is pretty unfair for this game. I've been running into a couple of little glitches here and there, but nothing that's like game breaking or earth shattering. I never had to do, I think I had to do a hard reload like one time where I got out of the car and I was just like stuck in the world geometry. Um, but besides that, I haven't really run into anything serious in bugs. So that's out of the way. Uh, as far as the story goes, it's dumb, but it's funny. It's light. There's a part where I clipped this because it was so funny. Um, he said you guys had me at Murder Circus. And, gosh, man, there's a lot of like really funny stuff. It makes fun of like California culture in a really cheeky way, and like kind of Zoomer millennial type culture and that stuff. The driving's good. The shooting could be better, but it's arcadey in a fun enough way. It's not too difficult. Um, it's like, to me, as much as I've played, it's hard to give this game less than a seven. Like, I know, like, you could say everything you want and then you just give it a seven, but it's fun. The graphics are good. The gameplay is good. It doesn't never waste your time. Loading screens, when you die, you get a loading screen. That's kind of your punishment, but it doesn't take that long. Um, it's
Well,
a
not long for you. You're playing on the PS5, so
Well, I am playing on the PS5, but it's a pretty game. It's beautiful to look at. Um, it's a really good game. I am actually really glad that you maybe made me buy this, because I find myself kind of jumping into this, like kind of being like, what am I going to play? Well, like I should play Bayonetta 2, start getting on that. But you know what? I can just go check some boxes in Saints Row and, you know, drive this thing back and do this wingsuit thing and change my outfit a little bit. And it's a good little checkbox, do nothing, fuck around game. I'm really liking it a lot.
that's how I felt the third one was, and that's why I liked it so much. only made better when you play with friends, I think. But just by itself, even this the storyline. I mean, they're self aware. As far as what I've seen in this newest one, like I it seems to be just like that. I'm like, it's not going to be a masterpiece, and I never expected it to be to begin with. But I solely thought it was gonna be a good time. I mean, and yeah, if you're looking at it as a piece of art, yeah, it's just a 6. I mean, I can see people's argument. It's not gonna be when you're comparing it to something like God of War or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, but,
That's literally like an 8
as
or a
a
9 though, you know.
but as a solid just game by itself, um I think it is what it is, and I'm like, you'll walk away with, if you come into it expecting a really hard story, like a really something, um,
Hard
like Grand
boiled.
Theft Auto or something,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like then you're gonna be disappointed. But if you want something a little more slapstick, and just goofy, then yeah, this is most definitely gonna do better for you. That's what I came in knowing, especially after uh, Saints Row 4. I was so disappointed. It wasn't
Oh.
I don't know. I think that it's like the moment they jumped the shark, as it were. So I'm like, okay, bringing it back down, starting a new group. All right, that's fine. And so yeah, I really do want to get more into it by the end within the next couple weeks. I it's just unfortunately time has been not been on my side lately. So
Yeah. Have you had a chance to look at the or listen to the voices that you can choose from? There's about 7 voices that you can choose from for your main
yeah, and it
character.
angered the crap out of me because there's no that's I talked about this last time. There's no Cockney accent.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
For the male, for the there's like a
Female British.
uh yeah, and that's I'm like, all right, so because of that, I now have to make a specialized character solely based off the British female voice. I have a person who I want, and that's one of the reasons that's what kind of made me go really deep into that character creator,
Yeah.
hoping that someone had pre-made my person for me, but they didn't. Um,
They'll probably be a
and so
mod.
speaking, yeah, well, it's like speaking of which, did you go with a preset character or did you make your own?
Oh no, the preset characters suck. So I made my own. I got some pretty good screenshots. There's one. Oh, you need to go look at my PlayStation profile background because there's a pretty badass screenshot I got of myself flying. I'll just say it because we're on the podcast, but I'm flying in my wingsuit and I've got my werewolf head on, and there's the moon, the full moon, like right behind me. It's pretty badass, if I do say so myself. But yeah, so I made my own character. The voice number one is sort of the smarmy white guy voice, and it works really well for all of the dialogue because it's just the perfect like joke, like the perfect humor level dialogue. There's other voices I've listened to them a little bit, but like I don't know how well they would work with the jokes because whoever did that for voice number one is perfect. He is like spot on. But yeah, I can't wait to show you my character. He's just like this just jerky looking dude. And then I've made some other characters. They have some very strange faces as the presets. But you can make it do all kinds of stuff. And yeah, so mostly I've been just saving outfits and stuff like that so I can jump back and forth into different things. But yeah, it like one thing this game makes me think is that, Grand Theft Auto 6 is it kind of shows me what Grand Theft Auto 6 can be with the new technology. And I'm excited to see that too. But like this is doing a lot of really cool stuff with cars drive really well, and it's just a kind of a good, fun, easy game to play.
Yeah. So with the I don't know. I played as just because I spent so much time originally just trying to looking at other characters and messing around with the character creators. I just went with the default lady on the cover essentially for my player character
Okay.
who's the yeah, so it's like what happened was the first line of dialogue when you're in the club, like the very, very intro, and the moment you walk out, I'm like, that voice does not match that face. And I was really taken back. And so I'm like, let me see if I can just change the voice. I'm like, nope, no other voice work. Like as a whole, that voice is the best for that character. But I was just like, just that first line of dialogue was really jarring because that was not what I had in my mind. And eventually, like I said, it's one of those things that I have to, it'd be good to just play around with the character creator because they really let you do a lot. I remember a buddy of mine uh, essentially made Spock in Saints Row, I think the second one actually, and just played Spock the entire time. Because you can make your ears all pointed and stuff like that, and they carried that to the third game. He's like, this is canon now. This is my own head canon. So
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, like
yeah,
they, the character that you make is rendered in engine, so you can be one character and then go through a cutscene and then switch out and remake your whole look and voice and everything, and then go to the next cutscene type storyline thing, and it'll fits right in there with what they've got. So that's a pretty cool thing to you can just switch it on the fly.
yeah. I remember one of the mods for Saints Row the Third was the toilet. Yeah, so you were just literally a toilet. Uh,
Okay.
so you're here you are parachuting with with a girl in your lap, and you're just a toilet.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
don't underestimate the creativity of people or the boredom, I guess. Um,
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I just don't know what they're gonna do next with this stuff. I mean, they could make it pretty wacky. They could go even further, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna start playing other games, but this game is definitely gonna be my. I don't know what the fuck I else want to do today or tonight. I got 30 more minutes. I guess I'll go cause some mayhem in Saints Row. It's great.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think that's been about all that we've been playing. So let's get into what we've actually been watching. I'll go ahead and kick off this first little bit. And so one of the things I've actually started watching, it's been out already. It's completed, or at least the anime is for uh, the Japanese version, and that's the English translation is Laid Back Camp or Yuru Camp. Not to be confused with Yuri Camp because that'd be completely different.
That's
Um,
a much different
but it
anime.
well, it is a all female cast of it's just a slice of life, girls enjoying camping,
Okay.
and it's like they go it's whoever created it is most definitely like, I'm a huge camping nerd. I want an excuse to write off a bunch of like tax write off a bunch of equipment. So let me just go ahead and make that as a reference material for an anime. There you go. Uh,
Okay.
but it's really wholesome. It's just simple, friendly, fun. Uh, yeah, it's
Do you know where it's streaming? Is it on Crunchyroll? I feel like I saw it on Crunchyroll.
probably question mark.
Okay.
Mine's on the internet. That's where I found it.
It's
I
streaming
found
on
it
the
on the
internet, Nick.
internet.
Streaming on the
Yes.
internet. Okay. Gotcha.
Uh, so yes, it's totally just if you want something simple, not just a simple slice of life, and that makes you kind of feel like you can have more confidence in camping. Like that's a good tip. Well, then yeah, go for it. I find more interest in the fact that things cost always more expensive in Japan. And so just to watch some of this camping equipment, I'm like, I wonder how expensive that stuff would actually be in Japan because anything luxury like that. I mean, they also take camping to a different level,
Yeah.
being like they actively sell cars with the commercials being like, you can slap a tent in the back of this hatchback and then you can use it for camping. And it's just like, why? When you can just do a tent, but, like, all the commercials like, "Oh, yeah, totally, the back end of this, this will fold down and becomes your bed," and then you just, it's yeah.
Well, I actually have a tent that goes over the back of my truck, and the reasoning on that is if you don't want to sleep on the ground or there's like snakes and stuff, and I mean they could still potentially get up like there, but if you're in the mud or something like that, it's just it's just a little bit easier if you sleep not exactly on the ground. Sleep in the bed is a
I've
little
seen
bit
the
better.
camping. I've seen they also have the rooftop camping set. So you literally have a step ladder to get to
Yeah.
the roof of your car, and then you'll have the pop. That way, you have the full, canvas, experience.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a fun little anime that totally recommend. I think there's only like 4 episodes so far in English.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, if you want, it's if this sounds remotely interesting, give it a shot because it's most definitely it's an enjoyable thing to have in the background. But yeah, the last thing I've been watching has been I wasn't really sure what to make of this one, and just because I thought the name was really stupid, but it's Lycoris Recoil, and it the concept is it's in the near future, and essentially, a government organization takes a bunch of orphan girls and trains them to be assassins to like suppress any upheaval. So if you got someone who's going to be like a terrorist, or if there's like arms deals going on, you hire this like hit squad to take out and prevent things from getting real ugly. So they might as well just be like the equivalent of like the Mission Impossible force or something like that. Uh, and I actually really, really like the art style to this. Uh, the main character, she is very different. Uh, she has this like lightish pink hair, and in my brain, I keep on trying to see her as a different character altogether. But she is like a wholly unique, at least in my opinion. She looks very unique to herself. Like she doesn't look like she's aped off of anyone else. Um, and it's really refreshing, but it also is really jarring at the same time because her sidekick uh, looks looks like she could be from a few other anime, and so like I see her, I'm like okay, and then I keep on seeing the back of this, the main character's head. And the moment she turns around, my brain's still trying to process like I'm expecting to see someone more cutesy or more I don't know something else, and but I really like the fact that her character design is unique in the world of anime. That's something else because everyone tries to look like something else. Um, so the action is good. If you are a fan of like CQC as it were, or gunplay, she holds the way she holds her firearm, her pistol is generally the more tactical style. They whoever uh, the author obviously is a big fan of that kind of stuff because she holds it close to her body, the way they have her aiming and ducking around corners. But it's I don't know. It's a simple little thing that it looks like a slice of life now. Kind of, it's like it's all happy and cheery. It'll probably turn real south later, is what I'm hoping for. I'm expecting it to be on the more heavy on the action side.
Yeah.
Like I think the story will get more there, but I've only been a couple episodes in as well, and that's only like 3 or 4 episodes currently in English. Uh, but I'm actually I'm pleasantly surprised with this one. Like Yudu Camp, I knew that was already like a comfortable thing to get in, but this I was like I really wasn't sure what to expect, and I'm like, oh wow, that's actually it's a lot of fun. Uh, one that I'm Oh, yeah, there's one last anime that I'm starting to turn on. Uh, I was is Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer.
Mhm.
It's like, it was always a weird one because the animation was slightly off, but I liked it because it also just as a whole looked a little different. But the main character is kind of a sad sack, and I was like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. And I was kind of hoping for it, but then something like episode 5, um, like like in the beginning, towards the beginning of the episode, I'm like, okay, from the way this is going, I believe that there's a predictable thing that's going to happen at the end of the episode. Sure enough, I called it. And then the
Mhm.
next episode was super jarring. Like they did a lot of hard cuts and like just really bad editing choices. And it reminded me of that movie um what was it? Argon or Aragon or something like that. It was like the
Argo.
Dragon trilogy book.
Oh, Aragon.
Yeah, so that because I remember watching that movie and being like, "This is the worst edited film I've ever come across."
I never saw
Uh,
it.
it was hot garbage. It really was. It was literally. I still remember this one scene to this day. Is they peek around over some rocks and like, oh, there's guards on the road or something like that. We have to be quiet and get around. The very next scene is them by a riverbed going on guard as as they're doing their training montage, and it's just like, wait, what?
Yeah, someone didn't
And
think this through.
one of our friends said, "Yeah, it seems like someone cut up the film, threw it in a shotgun, blasted it, and then said, okay, let's just wherever it lies, we're just gonna put it together." And that's how this like episode 6 was for me. Is uh, it was doing so many hard like where he's a person in a deep thought. Next thing, hard cut, he's waking up in his futon the next morning. You're like, wait, what? Is this a dream or is he like? Uh, they did that multiple times in the episode, having like almost nothing happen and then waking up in a futon, and or like just like next thing you know, they're completely somewhere else, and it's just like, oh man, this is not going the direction I was hoping for. And I just out of nowhere it just pivoted. I'm like, who's ever directing this or in charge, I'm like, they're just tanking this show.
That's
And I'm
so
like, now I
odd.
gotta watch it because it went from me being optimistic and kind of hopeful to now being like, oh, this is about to be a huge train wreck. And I probably shouldn't waste my time with it anymore, but I'm going to continue. So I will bite the bullet for this one and let you know how this comes in the end. Uh,
You can keep checking on
because
it.
yeah, I'm already invested.
You don't have to watch the
Yeah.
whole episode. If it's like, I mean, I guess you could just keep checking on it. And if it's like it's a good episode, you're like, well, I guess I'll check back next week, and then see if it gets worse
I,
again.
I'm
It's so
committed,
weird.
man. I've already halfway through their series, and so unless if it's really bad, I'm just gonna no matter how bad it is, I'm probably just gonna see it to the end and probably regret my time with it. I know maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe they were just having a mental breakdown or something when they're just. But this last episode was just so goddamn bad that I was just like, nope.
Wild.
Um, I just can't see them recovering from it because it literally made no sense. Uh, my wife was the same way. She's like, "Wait, we knew it wasn't going to be like, you know, A tier from the start,
Yeah.
but we thought it'd at least be good, you know." But it went from in my opinion, it went from like a 7 and an 8, kind of to like, oh wow, you're already like at a 5. Just that one episode just completely just dropped. I'm like, all right, I'm losing confidence in you real fast.
Yikes.
So we'll see how the new episode turns out. But I was just like, I spoke about it earlier. I was very hopeful, and now I just have to let people know, I'm not so hopeful anymore.
Not so hopeful anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about yourself, sir? What have you been watching?
Well, I finally finished Kaguya.
Yeah.
Yay! So I finally finished season 3. Um, and man, that show's really good. That show is it's just so funny. Watching it in English, they did an amazing job with the translation and the localization, just making everything make sense and funny. Season 3, two of the ramen kings come back. That
They
was
go to the school festival.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's so funny, man. That's so funny. Gosh, every time. And just like they have a lot of little tiny jokes in there that they sneak in, and it's like you can get it if you want, but if you don't get it, that's you're not gonna miss a crucial part of the story, but it's so worth it. Um, I texted you a little bit about this, but the ending theme song and
It's amazing.
animation, it's amazing. But I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It is this um, weird pseudo fantasy sci-fi made after Starship Troopers kind of a thing, and it's like, what the hell is going on here? It's hilarious, and really well done. It makes me want to go watch that anime, but it's just silly.
Yeah, it totally ships some of the other characters at some
Yeah,
point,
it does.
and
Yeah,
then also then she gives them the thumbs up pretty much. She's like, go for it, go after your main love, and it's like and the enemies are the the enemy ends up being the secretary or whatever, like the Kaguya, like because you see her in the back all like drone like, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's so stupid. It's like, wait, what am I watching? And then at the very end, it's just like that little dream sequence at the cafe, and I'm like, that crisp art style is just like, I want to see this whole thing redone in that art style
Well,
because it looks amazing.
it is amazing. And like at the beginning, he's like standing next to a plane and he's like looking off in the distance. And then they show that like bottle of green liquid and it's just like angels' wings. And then they're like, get back, Kaguya. And they're like going to some planet. It's so funny, man.
Well, see, it's, like in the beginning, kind of reminds me of what's that? Laputa, or Castle in the Sky, as it was in English, because it has that the normal, country bumpkin kind of main character guy, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden, literally someone falls from the sky, and then it falls. That's when it morphs into out of nowhere them going to the Starship Troopers training montage, kind of like we're now in the jump ship, ready to hit the ground, and yeah, it's such a wild, stupid ending, but it's great. And the whole like each season is just rock solid. That third season, one of my favorite episodes is uh the main guy. I can't remember his name now, but he's going to his sister's. He wants to
sure.
go see his sister's culture
Shirogane.
fest. Yeah, he ends up and him trying to dress to impress, and how his sister just rips him a new one the entire time,
Yeah,
and then the dad tries to give his 2 cents worth of fashion advice, and then she just rips him apart too.
the sister is
Yeah, that
great. Sister is great in that. Man, yeah, that show has got so many good characters. What's her name? Fu, the one starts with an F, with pink hair. I can't remember her name.
is that
Anyway,
not Chica?
Chica. What's her last name though? Starts with an F.
Oh,
Anyway,
I forget.
anyway.
But her every time she has to help the main president,
Oh, it's so
with any
funny.
of the trainings, and the pure look of dread, it's always
And then the one girl, her younger sister likes him, and she thinks he's great, and and then she's like, "Why don't you juggle these balls?" And because
she's like, you'll fail,
she
and
knows he's
then
gonna fail, and then he can juggle like really well, and he laments because his grandmother could juggle like 5 things or something, and he's like, sadly I can only juggle 4 things at one time, and then something, I don't know, something happens, but yeah.
yeah, it's, Fujiwara, that's her name, Chica
Fujiwara,
Fujiwara.
yeah.
Yeah,
Fujiwara is so
so
funny. They probably, man, she was great.
the fact that she says that the president is her ideal type, but the fact is the fact that it's just the president just disgusts her to her core.
Yeah. Oh man, and
So
she's
like,
like,
yeah, like everything about him is the kind of person I want, except for not him.
it's not him. Man, it's so good. But it seemed to end with some finality this season. Is there going to be a season 4, or I kind of go with a little bit, but I didn't really dig that deep.
Yeah, I thought there was supposed to be. I know the series. That's not where the series ends. So that's that's my hope, anyways. Each season, I never expected the next one to have come out to be animated. So
Oh
I
well,
was always surprised when a new one came out. I'm like, oh, score! There's a new one, and it just makes me smile.
because
But then
like,
again, I really try not to look into it because I
uh,
came from the days of old where like you'd get like 3 episodes of something,
yeah,
and you'd never get anything else. That's it.
oh yeah, that's the 90s and 2000s. Yeah, I just wonder because it ended with some well, I don't know where they're really gonna go from here, but the last season 2 came out in what, 2019, 2020.
I don't remember the years. Like
I just
I
remember
saw
that
them when they first came out, and then yeah, you got the luxury of binge watching all of them
I did get
for
that
sure.
luxury, and I definitely took advantage of it. But I think like the last one came out a couple of years ago, so they definitely had a bunch of time between the last season and this season 3. So it might be another 2 years before the next season comes out, which would make sense. But I don't know. Anyway, I definitely enjoyed it. And kind of sad to see that it's done for now. But I did get a lot. I did get a lot of Kaguya all at once. Um, it's a kind of a show that I probably would have enjoyed. I mean, as much as I did enjoy it, I probably would have enjoyed it even more if I had watched it like week to week, because I don't know, it kind of it's kind of a lot to do, like episode over episode, because there's like 3 episodes within each episode. There's different little
So
stories,
they're chapters, yeah. So essentially,
battles. Yeah.
um, I believe there's a movie slated, and then I think the assumption was that there might be a movie or a final season or something like that. I don't know when the movie's slated for. I just remember that being like the common consensus was. I think it's called like it was First Kiss or something like that. It was supposed to be the movie name, and then yeah, people are like thinking that there's supposed to be a fourth season after that. Uh, but it'll be. I'm curious if it's going to get. America's starting to now bring more anime to theaters.
Yeah.
I know Dragon Ball, the new Dragon Ball movie, just hit a few theaters near me,
Oh wow.
which was really really cool to see. Just driving by and just seeing like on the marquee Dragon Ball. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I know that that one movie, the Beauty and the Beast movie, came out last year. And that was kind of a limited release, and I was surprised we got that, but it was cool that we got it, even though I didn't care for it all that much. But yeah, I'm hoping that maybe the Kaguya movie would come to a theater near us. I live in an artsy town, so I'd like it to come here. But anyway, only time will tell that if they even make one at all, which I would hope that they would. But yeah, that is what I've been watching. There's a couple other things that I kind of want to start watching. Um, I did mention to you watching Cardcaptor Sakura, which I did watch a little bit of that and the first episode of that, and that was like, wow, man, anime used to be something else. Um,
Okay, so that's Clamp, and Clamp is a different kind of special.
yeah, I did notice that whenever
So
it came up, I was like, oh, this is Clamp, and I was like, okay, but just some of the stuff that they were doing, I was kind of like, man, anime used to be like, I don't know. I liked it when anime was a bit more hand drawn. I know it's still hand drawn, but there's a lot of CG in anime nowadays, and I just really miss that old, like, notice the grindstone. Everything's hand drawn, hand painted.
oh yeah, for sure. So the main reason you're watching Card Captors is because you brought to my attention that you were hoping to watch Madoka Magica, and I had to give you some homework before getting to that because you wouldn't appreciate Madoka as much without getting a little bit of magical girl history under your belt.
So yeah, so this is part of the education, the anime education of Nick Vera. Um, I I will be watching Cardcaptor Sakura, and then you also told me that I should watch a very special version of Sailor Moon,
Oh yeah,
the
for sure.
DIC version.
Yes, so that version was the one that originally aired in the US mid 90s, uh just like the original Dragon Ball did before Cartoon Network got a hold of it. So there was, you know, the English was very bad. Uh and they gave Serena's best friend the biggest like Bronx or like New York accent. She might as well be what's her face from The Nanny, but
Oh
not quite
wow!
that bad. But it's very jarring, and it's
Oh
just like
man, I can't wait.
so. It's one of those. It's like it kind of makes it bad. Bad dubbing from old stuff is awesome. Just it really is. Like I love
It's
Godzilla movies,
yeah.
because that's what we called them. We didn't call them kaiju, they were just Godzilla movies or monster movies, and then we'd be like, having that Japanese lip sync, like, be completely off from the English voicing you're hearing, it's part of the magic.
To
And that's what I wanna do is I wanna get those old movies, but with the English that I grew up watching. Unfortunately, now, most of those shows, you can only get them and they'll have, subtitles, and it's more authentic. But I'm like, no, no, I love it because I remember being cheesy as hell, and that's kind of why I want it.
Yeah, I did. I
So
did happen to Google and read a Reddit article, kind of what you were talking about on Sailor Moon. And people did say the same thing that it was worth watching that the DIC version, but that the only way to watch it now is on the internet, or through buying really old, insanely expensive DVDs of it. But maybe not even DVDs, maybe VHS actually. Of
both. Yeah, you
yeah.
can get them both that way. My wife has those, and yeah, the Deke versions. Um, yeah,
What does that stand
that's
for anyway? Do you
I
know?
don't know. It was just the publisher behind it, and
Oh,
so it would li- it would they would pronounce
oh,
it at
I
the end
do
of each episode or
remember
whatever.
that. I do remember that symbol of like the flashing on the thing. Yeah, DIC. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So I don't know how far I'm gonna get into that. I might have to. I mean, there's like 40 something episodes of Card Captor, and there's so many
Um,
episodes of Sailor Moon. I don't know how many,
So
but
Card Captor was like, was interesting in its own right. I don't necessarily think you need to finish it. Probably season 1 would just be fine enough. I think finishing the main story arc for Sailor Moon, the first one, is fine because they go off to make uh of quite a few different ones, Super and Beyond. So, Sailor Stars and all that stuff, but you just need to watch the first main thing. It was one of those that was one of the ones where my wife was like, when she got the DVDs, the actual real DVDs, she's like, "Oh wow, TV edited quite a bit as far as like the final like battle, like or like when certain characters die or something or disappear, like they kind of like people die in the original one, you
whoa,
know? They yeah, it's just
very GI Joe Transformers.
yeah, famously when later on when you get there's this child character later on in Sailor Moon, um, and she straight up pulls a gun on the original like in the original anime, and they completely changed that for the English version.
Wow,
So
that's wild.
yeah, it's
Well, I was gonna ask, besides those two, are there any other magical girl animes that you think I should I should go and
I would say the original Precure or Precure. It's
I
like
couldn't find that.
it's um the internet has it.
Pricure. No, I Google it
Yeah.
and nothing comes up. I can't.
Um
You're gonna have to
yeah,
send me
because
something on it.
all right, yeah, because that one was, if I remember that when that got dubbed, it was kind of funny because they ended up having like it's there's two main females, one's colored white, one's colored black, and it was just really funny because they're saying some like you got your magical creature telling you to do to say certain things or like just transform and it's like she starts spouting this like nonsense right out the gate. She's like, how what am I saying? Like she just they kind of make fun of like poke fun of it themselves. But yeah, so Pretty Cure Pretty Cure is PRE. That's probably why you had a little harder time finding it.
Oh, okay.
uh but yeah, the original one uh it's very for our standards, I guess it's poorly drawn, but it's a kids cartoon for elementary school kids.
Okay.
Um, but the reason why you don't need to watch a lot of this. It's just, it was silly and funny, but it was just a couple episodes is all I recommend.
Just get a
And that
dab of it.
it gives you the vibe of that one particularly is a money cranking machine as far as this is targeted towards elementary school kids. And in Japan, they have zero like laws against pumping out merch towards your in fact that's all it is whatever kids show you're watching, it is a dedicated half hour commercial for all the merch.
Yeah.
Because so whether it be Power Rangers, um Common Rider, any anime, it's just like Yokai Watch, in the commercials you're gonna get the Pokemon uh, breakfast sausage. You're gonna get the Pokemon clothing. You're gonna get the Pokemon physical toys, video games, like throughout the entire times of the commercials. And that's exactly so this that's why every one of these has a different kind of transformation device. Sometimes they look like cell phones. They double as this, and that's Sailor Moon does it too. And you can
Yeah.
totally see it being like, all right, like her main transformation item pendant changes. It evolves over time, and then she'll break out a gadget or two here and there, and like, okay, it's not as egregious
And
as some
it's
of the other
and
stuff,
all that
but
stuff was
like,
stuff that you could buy. You could go
oh
buy in the
yeah.
store at the time,
So
yeah.
therefore, when your little kid's watching it, they come to you and be like, I want that costume, and I want the little, ramen set, stuff like that. It's over the top. So yeah, just watch a few episodes of that, and then it'll once you get the cutesy understanding vibe, it'll really help you with the, impact, I guess, of, how weird and how different, Madoka Magica is.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot hopefully you don't read anything about it and just go into it blind because you
Yeah, I'm
don't
trying
spoil that
to.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, I really like Madoka Magica, but also the stuff I've recommended to you. I grew up with, I remember watching Sailor Moon, uh, when they came out originally on, I think it was WGN,
Oh,
around
wow.
the
I
Midwest.
remember
That was
that.
before WB bought them out or merged or whatever, and then,
I remember
um
WGN, yeah.
yeah, that and they had, Dragon Ball up until, like, he goes to space or whatever, and that always stopped right there, hard cut. Then Toonami got a hold of those, and then got the other episodes, and you're like, "Score," finally, like, after 5 years of watching the same episodes, you know?
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, kids these days will never understand those like those like nothing channels, and you're surfing cable at like 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and that crazy ass channel has something amazing on, and those were the
I literally
days.
only knew about it because I'd visit my grandparents, in the Midwest, and they had TV channels. The WGN was not where I was living at the time, and I would wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, turn on the TV, and just start clicking through the channels, just trying to find anything for me to watch, and
Yeah.
that's how I came across them. And that's, and so like, oh yeah, I totally know about this, and like I said, eventually all that stuff gets, it's more syndicated now. You have the internet wasn't a thing back then to that extent.
No.
Um,
It
so
was
yeah,
just
for
chat
sure.
rooms. Yeah, man. That's cool though. Yeah, I'm gonna start trying to get in some of that stuff along with some other anime watching here and there. Yeah, man.
If you ever get bored, go down some of Camp's catalog.
Clamps
The
Clamps catalog. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They do the movie X, which is really hard to find when you're searching for that on Google.
Yeah.
But it's just so you have to just literally, if you don't know the studio's Clamp, because I've had friends be like, I can't find it. All I end up finding is like porn or something or Professor X or something. It's
Yeah.
just like I can't just find the movie. So or Triple X or something like like Vin Diesel. Like they can't find just the anime X. And that was really weird because it's, post-apocalyptic, kind of like the end of the world, but also it's very like that studio loves to do at the time everything was forbidden love, so
Oh, okay.
the artists have now kind of all changed, but the studio kind of stays the same to a certain extent. But they were very much so X was all like it was like, oh wait, the two main characters, they kind of dig each other, but they're both guys, and that was really like pushing boundaries back then.
Oh,
um
okay.
but it's very shoujo. It's all shoujo. So it's like, Japanese women, like in a lot of sense, that was a big appeal to them. Um, I think there's a couple weird bits in Clamp where you're like, if you're not expecting it, like, wow, was not expecting something like that to happen, like in Card Captors. It's like it's super weird, but once you understand the studio, you're like, ah, okay, it's just them. It's just them being them. They make one called Chobits, which is essentially your AI is a robot, um, or your computer. I'm sorry, is a robot. So you can have a male looking robot or a female looking robot, and then they are 1-to-1 scale, more or less human size. Um, they are completely, you hook up a data cable to them, and if you hook up another cable, they can work as your printer, or they can hook up to your printer and print shit off. And then they have one that fits in the palm, and that one is your laptop. Uh, so essentially, what your 1/16 scale figurine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a moving little robot, and yeah, uh, but that one is about like literally the main character falling in love with his robot, his personal computer. Um,
That's wild,
so
dude.
they love that concept of like forbidden love, and so once you realize, oh, okay, they're just another weird one of these. Let's see how weird this gets. Yeah, obviously not recommended for children.
All that being said, kids don't watch that.
Yeah, as I have to, like, now the things I know now, I'm like, no, man, my kids should not watch that show. Uh,
Yeah,
well, all right. I'm curious. I'm looking forward to you experiencing Sailor Moon for the first time. That'll be fun.
wild.
Uh, yeah, and then honestly, having you go through this journey of anime will be good, and then we'll record something special for your other journeys of anime.
Yeah, maybe we'll. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good for us to do something like that.
All right, guys. Well, on that note, I think that's it. You got anything else you'd like to add?
No, man, that's all. That's all she wrote.
All right. Well, this is, wrapping up episode 26. Like I said, next week will be our complete, start of our second year, a new journey. So hopefully things go smoother next year than it did this last. That's for sure.
Yeah, hopefully,
But
hopefully we're not dead this time next year.
yeah, right. Super COVID will come out, and or maybe those guys from the marketplace will really eventually get you, Nick.
Maybe,
Just remember, when you go out and make a deal with someone you don't know, maybe meet up at a neutral spot, like a police station,
yeah,
maybe a Walmart at least with some cameras pointing at you. You know,
yeah. If I do this again, I'll be like, hey, let's meet at a police station's a good idea, or like a mall or something like that. That'd be a better idea.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us and being with us to this point. And hopefully, we'll get to see you next year. Thank you, Nick, for all the fun times, and yeah, look forward to this next, solid season.
To another year of podcasting. All right, guys.
Take it easy.
See you later. Bye.